Happy Wednesday, friends, and welcome to another day of comprehension where we're talking about making inferences. If you remember from Monday and Tuesday, an inference is a guess using clues. Making an inference means reading what's not in the book. We can make inferences by using clues to figure out what the author is not saying. So remember, the recipe for making an inference is using what you already know in your brain, adding it to the clues from the story or picture, and then you can make your guess about what's happening in the book. A few pictures we used to make inferences was this one of Mrs. Househaughton. Remember, I know in my brain that Mrs. Househaughton is married. And I used what I already know, plus the clue from this picture, which is they're holding hands, to make an inference that this is Mr. Househaughton. Another picture we used to make an inferences was this one of Mr. Boland. The information I already had in my brain was that I know Mr. Boland worked really hard in his master's program. I also know in my brain that when people graduate, they usually wear a square hat. When I look at this picture, I see a couple clues. Mr. Boland's wearing that square hat, and he has a diploma in his hand. So my inference from this picture was that Mr. Boland must have graduated when this picture was taken. So remember, what I had in my brain plus what clues I saw in this picture helped me make my inference. We also made an inference on this story. Remember this story? All it said was that the sheep kept giving wool to this man and the boy. But we used what we know in our brain, which is that sheep have wool on them. Plus, we used what was happening in the story, which was that sheep was giving up wool to make the inference that sheep was giving his own wool away. Today, we're going to look at this picture of Miss Ronigan to make an inference. I know in my brain that Miss Ronigan loves her dog, Baby Girl. If I take a peek at this picture, there's Miss Ronigan. And it looks like Miss Ronigan loves this dog because she's hugging it. So if I use what I know in my brain that Miss Ronigan has a dog, and I look at the clues in this picture, which is that she's holding a dog, I'm going to make the inference or the guess that this is Baby Girl. I can make another inference about this picture too. I know in my brain that Easter time usually has a lot of bunnies. If I look at this picture, I have another clue right here. Baby Girl's wearing some ears. Using what I already know, plus the clue in this picture, I'm going to make the inference that this picture might have been taken on Easter. Those are some good inferences. Next, we're going to make an inference about me, Miss Allen. I know in my brain that there's a state fair in Minnesota every year where lots of people usually go and they give out ears of corn for you to eat. If I look at this picture, I already see clues right away. There's tons of people. And what am I eating? Corn. So I already know in my brain that there's always a state fair with lots of people. And if I look at this picture, I see the clues. There's lots of people and I'm eating yummy state fair corn. Hopefully we can have the fair again this year. I missed it last year. Now, friends, we're going to be looking at this picture and reading this passage to make some inferences. I want you just to be thinking in your brain and looking at this picture, trying to find some clues from the words in the pictures and matching them with what you already know. This one is called Fall in the Forest. Some animals look for food in the fall. These animals put their food in safe places. The animals save food for the winter. I'll read it one more time. Remember, be thinking about the words that I'm reading. Be looking at the picture that you see. And be thinking in your brain about any clues you may have to make a guess about what's happening. Some animals look for food in the fall. These animals put their food in safe places. The animals save food for the winter. Alrighty, friends. Now I'm going to first be talking about my evidence. That means the clues I'm using to make my inference. Some clues that I read were that animals put their food in safe places. That's a clue. Because if I look at this picture, it looks like, these things, they look kind of like nuts or acorns to me. I've seen those on the Shirley Hills playground before. And it looks like they're being put into the holes. So it says animals put their food in safe places. I'm going to make the inference based on that evidence, plus that I see this bird putting some of these nuts in these holes, that this bird is saving some of this food and keeping it in a safe place for winter. So again, the evidence I'm using to make my inference is that I see these little nuts in these holes. I can see this bird putting the nut into the hole. And I read that animals put their food in safe places and save it for the winter. So those are all the clues that I used. And my inference is that this bird is saving up these nuts for the winter. So I'm using lots of clues, lots of evidence to figure out what this bird is doing. The author didn't tell us at all that this bird was saving these nuts for the winter. We made that conclusion by ourselves by reading the words and by looking at the picture. That was a really great guess, a really good inference that we made today. Tomorrow's going to be even trickier, so keep practicing in the books that you're reading at home and come back tomorrow for one last day of comprehension this week.